Hello Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 friends. This will be a short tutorial on tips on how to improve scenery. In this tutorial I will often refer to using polygons. And I will use polygons to do what I'm getting ready to do. I will not go into great detail on how to use polygons because I have already done that. In the description below, I will link all of the different actions you can take and all the changes you can make simply by using a polygon. I will go into detail on how to build a polygon also. Also, in the event new folks are dropping in that have never built scenery before, I will go through my short tutorial series covering all the basics. If you already know the basics, you can drop down in the description below, expand the description below, and you can see the chapters to this video and move past the tutorial series. If you're new and you're interested in building scenery, I do suggest you go through the short tutorial series at the beginning of this video. And with that, let's get started. Greetings and welcome to Patriot 6. I make tutorial videos for scenery building or modifications to scenery in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 utilizing SDK. Different people at different levels of skill see these videos. You may be here because you're curious or you may already know the basics of scenery building. It is impossible for me to know who will click on a video. Because of the broad range of folks that view the videos, I include the basics in each video. This and all new videos will be built in chapters. You can find the chapters of the video in the description below. In addition, you can see the chapters on the video timeline if you want to skip the basic chapters. The processes for building scenery, downloading SDK, and downloading samples is constantly changing. The video that I am redoing at this moment is just a few months old, and I'm already having to make another video. But I will promise you, as long as I'm able to make videos, I will keep my videos up to date. Because it does you no good if I make a video and let it set for several years, walk away, and never update anything. So know that this video is being recorded on November the 28th, 2022. So to build scenery in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, a couple things must occur first. The first step is we have to go into developers mode. And then we must download SDK. And although it's not mandatory that you download the samples, I recommend that you download the samples. If you do not download the samples, then you have to find the samples from other places. So to begin, we're going to go into developers mode. And we'll do that by going to Options. And once we're at Options, we want to tick on General Options. We want to drop down to Developers. Tick on Apply and Save. And once we're in Developers mode, a new menu will appear at the top. In my videos, I refer to this menu as the Dev menu, or sometimes I may call it the Developers menu. But from the Dev menu, go to Help and drop down to SDK Installer Core and tick. And when you do that, your browser will open up and download SDK. And once you have SDK downloaded, you want to double click like any other executable file and start the installation process. and you continue on with the process. Now, since I already have SDK, I'm going to stop the process. Again, on the Dev menu, you want to go up to Help, and you want to drop down to Samples, and you want to download the very first thing you see, Samples. And again, your browser will start to download the samples. And just like before, you want to go to the download, find the executable file, and start the installation. I'm going to tick Next. And when you tick Next, this application will automatically install the samples inside the SDK folder. So let me quickly walk through finding the samples. You want to open the SDK folder. You will see a folder that says Samples. You want to open this folder. And at this point, you will see 3 folders. To get to the sample you're most likely to need, the Simple Scenery folder, you want to open the Dev Mode Projects folder. And then you want to drop down to Sceneries and open. And down here at the bottom, you will find Simple Scenery. I recommend that you make a copy of the Simple Scenery and drop the Simple Scenery into the working folder that you will be using to build scenery. One last thing I would like to mention is when you are in developer's mode, you will see SDK updates on the top right hand of your screen. As long as this button is blue, you are fine. If this button ever turns yellow, it means that the SDK has an update and you need to go grab the update. And getting SDK updates is the same process that I showed you in the installation. And it is very possible that you will still see this as yellow after you update the SDK. And to solve that, you can tick on this button and open up this SDK window and find the refresh button and tick the refresh button. And then the SDK icon at the top right of your screen will no longer be yellow. Let's talk about the developer camera. The developer camera is something that is vital and something that you will use often. And to get to the developer camera, you go up to the developer menu, tick on Camera, and tick on Developer Camera. Operating the developer camera is a lot like operating the drone camera. So I'll show you the keys that we use to operate the developer camera. If we want to drop, we hit the F key. If we want to rise, we hit the R key. If we want to go left, we use the A key. And if we want to go right, we use the D key. If we want to go forward, we use the W key. And if we want to go in reverse, we use the S key. There's also some numerical keys that you can use. On the number pad, the 4 key will spin you, and the 6 key will spin you in the opposite direction. The 8 key will tilt your camera up. and the 2 key will tilt your camera down. Occasionally when you're building scenery, your azimuth will get off. So that's very easy to correct by using the 7 key or the 9 key. And then you can correct your azimuth. You can also use the mouse and freely move around. By holding down the left Alt key and by using your left mouse button, you're able to move anywhere you want to move. Also, you can use the mouse wheel to zoom in or out. Almost always, this is a process I go through. I'll tick on the developer camera. I will drop to the ground using the F key. Then I will use the left Alt key and the left mouse button to make sure I can spin in small areas. That is the fine control of the camera I'm looking for. What I don't want is this. You see what happened there? As soon as I got in and I used my mouse button to move, look how far I am from my aircraft. So again, to the developer camera, drop down with the F key, and with the left Alt key depressed and the left mouse button, make sure you can make minute movements. And now you're good to go and ready to use the developer camera. Let's talk about the tools that we need to build scenery. In most projects, it's very simple. The items which you use to build scenery are typically in your scenery library already. There are exceptions though. If you are bringing a 3D model into the sim, that would be an exception. If you are using the Earth to MSFS tool, that is another exception. And on occasion, you may need a text editor. I will explain the reason for the text editor once I do a video where the text editor is needed. For starters, put a folder on your desktop that you will use as your working scenery folder. I have one here and I will show you what I have in it. All I have in it is a simple scenery folder I downloaded from SDK, and I do have a thumbnail. In the simple scenery folders that you download through this version of SDK, a thumbnail is not mandatory because there is a standard thumbnail within the scenery package. However, on all of my projects, I choose to have a thumbnail, and it's your choice where you want to go with the standard thumbnail in the scenery folder or if you want your own. If you decide you want to make your own thumbnail, the thumbnail has to be the precise dimensions of this thumbnail I use, 412 by 170 pixels. No other size will work. So if you build your own thumbnail, please keep this rule in mind. Okay, now we're ready to begin. The first thing I want to show you is grass. This is actually payware. The creator did a good job with the runways, the taxiways, start locations, and everything at this airport. However, as soon as I purchased the payware and loaded in the payware, I was very disappointed with this particular area here. The creator added grass because the runway turnoffs are different than in real life, and the creator wanted to cover up the texture. However, the creator did not spend a lot of time making sure that the grass texture that they added matched the surrounding area. And to me, this looks awful because it doesn't match the colors around it. It stands out and it just doesn't look very well. So I fixed this. So 1 second and I will load up the package where I fixed this and show you how I did it. And here's what the grass looks like after I completed the project. Unfortunately, when I built the package to improve the grass, the runway work that the creator did disappears. So I had to continue to guess where to go. I had to continue to add polygons, change the texture, and to make sure that it fit into the creator's model. I had to guess where the creator put the turnoffs and where all of the runway aspects ended, and then test it and move it and test it and move it, and finally I got it looking great. So basically all I did was build a polygon and then add a material. If we tick on the polygon, bring up view, and look at the properties, we can see what I did. I found a texture from the material editor called Grass Gemma, and you can find it down here on Asobo ground. Grass Gemma right here. And I drug it over into the properties of the selected polygon and dropped it into materials. And once I did that, I started to work on the colors. Now, working on colors can be tedious because you got to play around and find what matches. In the beginning, the grass looked like this. But that doesn't look natural at all. In fact, it looks about as bad as what the creator did. But then I went down here, and it took some time to do this. I'm not going to lie to you. This took a little time. I went in and played around with the numbers until I got what I wanted. I took red to 109, green to 113, and blue to 72. And I got a pretty close color match to the area. This is up to you. You can leave it as it is, which it doesn't look bad. I actually went in and changed the tiling and took it up to 314. It tried to make the area look more natural. And to me, that looks a little more natural. Now let's turn off the tools. And when everything settles down and starts to load back in, you can see this looks better than the original picture that I showed you. This matches the area better than the grass that the creator chose. And you can see how I made it fit. And even though this is a very easy thing to do, to add textures, making it fit in his area when I could not see his area was a bit tricky, but I was able to pull it off. So let's use the teleport window and go look at something else. So I'm at a location where I worked on in the past, near Nashville Superspeedway. And while working on this area, I noticed that the lake did not extend as far as the lake normally extends. So I'll show you how to fix this and make it look more what it looks like in real life. The first thing here is we have some trees that we don't need out in the middle of the lake. So let me bring up the project. And I'm going to build a polygon to clean up some of the trees around here. Looks like this is a major area that needs work. So on the Objects window, I'm going to change from Scenery to Polygon. If you're new, I did a very detailed video on polygons. Again, it's in the description below. Also, the tutorial series tells you how to get in developers mode, how to get SDK, and how to get to the point that I am at right now. So I'm going to tick on Add. I'm going to hold the left control key down, and every left mouse tick will add a point for the polygon. Make sure I cover up the trees that I want to get rid of. I'm going to View and Properties. I'm going to Vegetation on the Properties window. I'm going to take the top two sliders all the way to 0. And the trees are now gone. And now I'm going to make the water appear as it is in real life. Again, with a polygon, Add, and left control key down, and every tick will add a node. I'm not going to get extremely precise on this because this is a tutorial, but I'm going to roughly get the area I need. And now that the polygon is complete, and I'm ticked on the polygon, I'm going to View on the Scenery Editor and Properties and bring up the Properties window. I'm going to tick on Water, and I'm going to add Lake Water because this is a lake. And there you go. Now, in addition to removing trees, if you want to, you can add trees. Every now and then you will find a location where the AI does not pick up the trees, like this location here. It's not picking up the trees. And we see three-dimensional trees out here that the AI is generating. But we see this bare area that also has trees, but for whatever reason the AI is not recognizing this as trees. So again, with polygon selected on the objects, I'm going to tick Add, and with the left control and left mouse key down, I'm going to draw a polygon. Now since I'm adding trees, it doesn't have to be very precise whatsoever. And over on the Properties window, I'm going to Vegetation, and immediately the trees start to fill in, but you can add whatever scale you want and whatever density you want with the sliders. And that took care of that bare spot. So now let's teleport to Miami and look at a situation that you probably see a lot of the time and wish you could fix. And now once the area is settled down and all the scenery library has filled in, we can see that portions of the bridge are covered with water. And the farther away we get, the more the bridge disappears. I get close enough I can see the bridge, and I'm sure you've seen lots of bridges covered with water. So again, on the Objects menu, I'm going to Polygons, and I'm going to add a polygon. And I'm going to be a little more careful with this polygon because I only want to take care of the bridge. And now again, I'm going to bring up the properties with the polygon ticked. I'm going to Water and Exclude. Now the trick to it is finding out what type of water it is. I think I hit it right off the bat with ocean. It defaults to ocean. But if we're on river, that doesn't work. If we're on regular water, it sometimes works, but it doesn't work. If we're on pond, that doesn't work. If we're on lake, that doesn't work. We're on ocean. So tick Ocean and Exclude. And even from a distance, we can see that I took care of the bridge. I can do the same thing with this portion of the bridge here. Water, Exclude Water. And now even if we get at a distance, you can see that the bridge is now viewable and is no longer covered with water. Also in Miami, this is a river, and I've noticed a lot of the crossings are covered with water, so I did the same thing. Here is an area here and here that tend to get covered. We're going to fix this here with a polygon, very similar to what we did on the other location, although it may be a different type of water here. So I'm going to place a polygon here. And I can see where the road should be. Double click to complete it. On the properties, going to Water, going to Exclude, And it's on ocean, and obviously ocean is not working. So let's try river, since this is a river. And there we go. Now the road is no longer covered with water. I did this all through Miami and cleaned up all of these locations. But if you're flying around and you see water over the roads or bridges, it's an immersion killer. So this is one of the ways you can fix that. So let's change locations again. Let's say this is your home, and some folks like to go to their home and make things look better. Well, what we end up getting is an AI generated building. And the only way you're going to get your house to look like your house truly looks is to model it in a tool like Blender. And you can see that we have a lot of images on the mesh from the satellite imagery that are not picking up. And you may not like how the driveway looks. So let's fix the driveway. Get rid of the cars. Again, I'm going to use a polygon, and I'm going to draw out the area with the polygon. And with the polygon ticked, I'm going to the scenery editor. I'm going to tick view and properties. Now we want to find a material. So I'm going to look in Asobo ground, and I'm going to find gravel. Because this looks like a gravel driveway, it could be concrete, but I'm going to go with gravel. And I'm going to drag the gravel over to the properties window into the materials and drop it in. And now we might not like that color. So again, you can play around with the colors and find something that looks closer to what you want. And so by playing around with the colors, and you could do this until you're totally satisfied, I came up with something closer to gray. Now let's go up to the tiling and reduce the tiling to make this smaller gravel. And by playing around with the gravel, I was able to get it the gravel to look a little more like gravel. Now, here's one last thing I like to do. If we look at it right now, it's very distinctive, but gravel is not always exactly perfect and distinctive. So we'll go to fall off and start adding some fall off to it. And 2 meters is what I added. And that gives it a little more natural look. Now we could clean up the entire yard to get rid of this truck. I'll do that using the same thing I did at the airport. I'm going to find Asobo ground, and I'm going to find the grass gemma. Here it is. Drag it up into material. And let's try the same colors I used at the airport, and hopefully it'll be close enough. So I went to red 100, green 113, and blue 72. And that's not a bad match for this area. You can play around with the colors and do what you want. And you can mess with the tiling and make it look more like this or like this by increasing the tiling. And it probably wouldn't hurt to add a little fall off to it so it's not just perfect squared off. And if I wanted to, I could do the same thing here, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to. Let's do something a little different. Let's change on the Objects menu from Polygon to Scenery. Tick All, and let's find some trees. On the Objects in the search bar, I'll type Tree, and I'll look for a tree. There's a few I've used in the past that I know seem to work pretty well. Okay, this is a large tree. So on the gizmo, I'm going to scale. And I'm going to scale the tree down. Well, that looks pretty good. About the right size of what we were seeing. There's various trees you can apply. Say if you live in more of the southern area and have palm trees, you can add palm trees. But with this, I'm going to go with oak trees because that's typically what we see around here. And the size of this is 0.26. So I want to add some more quickly. Up on the default scale on the Objects menu, I'm going to change that from 1 to 0.26. And now I'm going to grab one click placing and place some trees around here. I don't remember exactly how this looked. I covered it up with the mesh. But we can see locations where we have trees and shadows. And maybe I need to go with this one a little larger because I see a fairly large shadow there. And again, on the gizmo, I can go to scale and scale this tree up a little larger. There we go. And now instead of having the two-dimensional image, we actually have 3D objects here. Let's do one more thing. On the Objects menu, I'm going to type in car. And there's all kinds of cars here, so I'm going to try to find something that looks pretty good. Rotate the car into place. Looks rather small here. A lot of these cars are European cars, I guess with the Sobo being in France. But you can pick whatever vehicle you want and add. Take the time to actually match it the way you want to match it. And orientate it the way you want to orientate it. And there you go. If that's your house, it's better looking. You could take more time than I did and match the colors a little better or fill in more of the area. It's up to you. That is just a few tricks on how you can improve the area. Now let's go look at the last scenario. And here we are at a small town in Illinois, which is across the river from where I grew up in Kentucky. This is Kentucky, this is Illinois. And this really bothers me because this is a railroad bridge. But you can't see the bridge, it's covered by water. So when I would fly to my home airport, I would see this bridge covered with water, knowing the bridge is there in real life, and it just truly bothered me. So the thing is, if you're working with scenery, is to know that every object a Sobo uses is already in the scenery library. Any payware that you've purchased will also be in the scenery library, whether it's in your community folder or if it's in your official folder. Now, there is a creator on MSFS 2020 Marketplace, RK Bridger. I probably purchased about 6 different locations of RK Bridger because he does a wonderful job in recreating bridges. And every bridge that he has built is in the scenery library, and that means I can reuse it in a location should I wish. So in the Objects menu on Scenery, I'm going to type in Bridge and find a bridge I think will work here. So the closest match I can find is the Wabash Rail Bridge from RK Bridger. So let's rotate it into place. And let's scale it up a bit. Now I'm going to view properties. I'm going to remove snap to ground. The elevation's not the same in this area as where it was located in St. Louis. It looks a little better, but it doesn't make it all the way across the river. So what are we going to do about this? Just get over the top of it, and down on the scenery editor, I'm going to hit the duplicate button and match it up as best I can. Now I'm going to duplicate again, same process, and match it up. And we're still not across the river, so duplicate again. The Ohio River is a wide river. And it looks like one more duplication. I should be able to get it to fit then. And now we have a railroad bridge across the river where we had nothing before. Don't know if this bridge has lights on it, but we'll see. Actually, it does. So those are some simple tricks that you can use to improve scenery. I used polygons to clean up the mesh and add a new texture. I used polygons to add mesh. I added a few objects, cars, trees, and I replaced a bridge which is hidden under the water with a bridge in the scenery library. And little small tricks like that can really improve the scenery in the areas that are important to you and improve the immersion of the sim. And even though this bridge might not be an exact match as real life, it's certainly better than the bridge underwater. If I remember correctly in real life, this bridge is very rusty. I will take this over having the bridge underwater. And flying along, it looks like a railroad bridge, and that's good. You're probably not going to be flying down and counting the rivets. So that concludes this tutorial. I hope these small tips and tricks helped you. There's other things you can do. Say if you have a pond that you're used to seeing in real life, but the pond doesn't show up in the scenery, you can use the water trick that I used on the lake. And any place you have water, you now know you can remove the water, particularly from bridges. And you can repurpose items that you have in your scenery library. There are a lot of things you can do if you simply use your imagination and repurpose the items that you have. And I want to thank you for watching Patriot 6. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. The more people that subscribe causes the algorithm to reach out to more people and recommend the videos. And I hope to reach as many people as I possibly can, help them out. I also have a small international community on Facebook. I will pin that in the description below. You're welcome to join and share ideas with other people on there that are trying to do the same thing as you. Learn to build scenery. Some are more advanced, some are beginners, but we're all there to help each other. And from Facebook, you can get a link to the Discord server that I have. Whereas if you run into issues, I've been known to get on Discord with people from all over the world, as long as they speak English, and help them get past the hurdle that they have in building scenery. That is my pledge to you. If you follow me, then I will help you as best I can to succeed in building scenery. And that is what I do. So thank you again for watching Patriot 6. I hope you enjoy scenery building. I hope you enjoy flying. And if you've been contemplating building scenery, you can do it. It's not that difficult. So thank you for watching Patriot 6. If there's something someone requests, that I haven't covered, then I actually will make a video on it. Thank you. This is Patriot Six saying goodbye.